why do you think like your father or even people that you know kind of go down that rabbit hole of like, let's go get a massive house and a massive this, that, and the other, build a big place on a big block, etc. Is this because they feel like they need it? Is this trying to get, I don't know, trying to symbol to other people, like signal out, saying like, this is what I've got, where I might not have it, like people buying a nice BMW on debt? Like, where do you see this kind of coming from?
Well, this is our wiring. We are. This is where I look at it and go, we are deep-seatingly wired to, one, want to fit in. Right, we don't want to be out of our tribe, because if you go back in time, if you were like, excommunicated from your tribe, that meant death.
Yep.
Right, and then the second thing is that we're very, very good on like we want status, because the higher your status, the better your choice in mate. So, for example, if you live in a nicer area, that has people believe their status is higher, and that's viewed as you're improving your rise on the chain.
Yep.
So for a lot of people, we mask those things and we go, well, we justify it in really interesting ways about, I want my kids to go to this school.
Yeah, I might have said that on this podcast before.
Yeah, we want to go to a party and subconsciously we want to tell people we live in a better area than they do, so that they think more highly of us. So there's all these factors that go into it. And I'll be honest on this one, I've certainly felt that way. Like in other episodes, people have heard me rant on about, buying a car just to impress people, or moving to an area just to impress people. And for people that are listening right now, I encourage them to go check out those previous episodes. I think it was Looking Rich versus Being Rich was the one where we really deep dived into this. But you are absolutely fighting up some deep-seated emotions here.
So this has been something that has been interesting for myself. So I've had a lot of people quite close to me that have been challenging this, where they've bought $200,000 cars, and I kind of know their income. They've had massive mortgages on one or two places they kind of bounce between. I'm like holiday houses in addition to it. And I'm like, that would scare the living daylights out of me, to the point that I would never be able to sleep. But it was actually interesting. I think that the reason that I am the way that I am is because of the way that I was brought up, where it's like very frugal. Like we had a very normal house, like it was out in Gippsland, Victoria. Like this is kind of it. Like you're just living within your means. You're not sort of stretching yourself out. You're not sort of trying to posturize to anybody. But I've seen that actually send other people in the complete opposite direction. Where
so let me pose you something here, right? Pose it here. You're saying I wouldn't sleep with. Let's ramp this up. Let's say it's a $3 million house, and you're going to have a $2.5 million mortgage, right?
Completely.
You wouldn't sleep, right? You sure?
I wouldn't.
Now let's pretend you believe the only way your child can be successful in life is if they go to the school that is in the catchment of that house. So you've got a choice. Grant, are you going to sleep, or are you going to have your child be successful? Which one are you going to pick?
See, but this is a challenging question, because you
didn't pick.
I was not raised, so I would go. Like I was not raised around those kind of schools, and I think I'm mildly successful. So the point for me is like, maybe it's because I've seen people be successful without having those things.
Yeah, so to the point, see how like the beliefs come into it here, and this is how many people get caught into these mortgages. But so for me, I'm a high school dropout, and for all my friends that went to uni, not to gloat or do it in a way, but like I make more than them. So for me, I go, university, a waste of time. The purpose of uni was to get you ready to make money in the world. I didn't do that, and I make more than you. In turn, that's a waste of time. And I'm not saying uni is the waste of time. It's just my experience would have me believe that. I realize university can be a really good thing for people.
And do you think that people actually subconsciously think to that level of going, you know what, I want my children to go to this great school. I want to live in this great house, whether I'm trying to signal to other people or make sure that my kids have got what they want, or this is what I've always wanted, and if I don't do it, I'm going to die without having what I wanted, right? And do they actually understand the second and third and fourth order consequences on this? Or is this just showing you what they think and what they believe of going, this is what I need to do? Because to you and I, right, I would argue that we live decently frugal lives. To other people, it might not be, because we want to.
I had an experience yesterday. We do not.
So I'll rewind that. Decently good lives.
I think frugal is perspective, right? But when I told someone I have 20 Lululemon t-shirts, they were like, "You spent $20 20 times $60 on Lemon t-shirts. I'm like, yes. And they looked at me like, yeah. Anyway, I'll come back to that at another point. But I want to throw in one more factor here. So we're talking about this purely from that perspective. But the other one is a lot of people buy homes in areas to be close to family. So it's like if your parental support or if your other family all lives in this area, you don't want to not fit in. So that's a big driver for people as well. So let's say, and I'll just pick on Sydney and Rose Bay for this example. Because I know that's an expensive area and a beautiful area. I'm not picking on that at all. But if your whole family's in that area, right, and you want to be close to them and that's where your tribe is fitting in, guess what type of house you're going to buy? If your family values education and they went to a certain school, guess what school you're going to want to send your kids to?
Yeah.
It's like that's the subconscious. And to give a Melbourne example, that would be the same as like Toorak or Brighton, right? These are, if you're in those connections, like that southeastern whole area of Victoria, so the southeastern suburbs from Melbourne, like they're quite expensive regions. Yep. And are you going to be the person in your family that's going to be the black sheep and go, do you know what? I'm completely cool with living 100 kilometres out of the city in a new land estate.
And you're talking to a guy that completely ran overseas for 7 years. So I'm totally fine with being the black sheep. But that's the interesting point around, like, because it's not ingrained in so many people. I still know people that I grew up with who now work at the primary school that we went together in, and they'd never left that bubble. And it just comes back to what makes business owners different in this situation around being able to comprehend and understand this concept around what is too much house. Because actually, you know what? I'm not even going to say this. My question to you, Charlie, and this is going to be a pointed question, is imagine someone's listening to this and they will justify. Like I'm sitting here going, you know what? If I lived in Brighton or in Rose Bay, to use that as an example, and I've got a son or a daughter, and I'm right next to my school and I'm in this great house that's got this, I don't know, good view of a beach that inspires me every single day, how do I know it's too much house? I mean, already in there. So now I'm living and breathing. Now I'm like, I can pay the bills, pay the mortgage. I might be able to put a little bit away for a holiday. Like, does that mean I'm got just enough house? Like, is there a ratio?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot. Now, I'll throw one more factor as well, not to keep twisting the knife, but it's like if you've had your parents buy a house in an area and then they've ended up quite successful, and then they've been encouraging you in your youth to buy a house in that area because it's like, you know, made them financially successful. And you've seen people who have bought a house in this area, they've done really well. Guess what you're going to want to do or think of doing? Exactly what I did.
Yep.
All right. So I read this really interesting book, and I'll have this. It had an impact on me because I love the way it makes you do the maths. So there's a book by someone called Vicki Robinson, and it's called Your Money or Your Life. And I'll give you the really impactful lesson from the book. She's like, think of something you're going to buy, right? So there might be a house in this example. And then she goes, work out what you get paid as an hourly rate. So as a business owner, take your average monthly earnings for the last 12 months, put it into an hour. And she goes, work out how many hours you have to work to pay for that thing.
Yep.
Now, in Australia, housing is expensive. Now, when you work out that if you're going to buy a home that's $1 million, let's say, and how many hours you're actually going to have to work, the calculation will be years, not weeks. Now, in her case, she talks about doing it down to the level of like iPhones and then going, or even lower. It's like, you know, for the newest iPhone, let's say that's $3,000. It's like, are you happy to work the amount of hours to have that thing? Yeah. And her whole decision-making process in her life has been that she's always calculated how much of her time she would have to give up to buy things. So she calculated her whole life in like time instead of like what things cost. So she'd be like, all right, I'm going to buy this car. It's going to cost me 3 months of my life or 6 months of my life. Is it worth it? So when you apply this to housing, if you've got your principal place of residence or a place you want to live in, like it is and it isn't an investment. It definitely is an asset you own, but it doesn't produce any income and it's going to come with a lot of debt. The likelihood is that you're going to have to work for a number of years to pay that, and there's going to be an opportunity cost that comes from it because you could have used that money to invest.
Hey, fellow business owner, if this topic and value-packed short video has resonated with you at all, and you want to dive deeper into being a full stack business owner, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now.